Thanks for joining today, everyone. We really appreciate you joining this special session of our info sessions at the School of Professional Studies here at Brown University for the Master of Science in Healthcare Leadership program. Today we have a special information session with alumni of the MHL program who also happen to be veterans, and so they can speak about their experience being in the program as a veteran, but also in general in terms of how they're able to use their educational benefits beyond their military service. And I'm definitely greatly appreciative of your willingness to join us today, gentlemen, and also for your service. And I'm glad that we could do this so close to Veterans Day when we could actually appreciate your service. So thank you all. All right, so I'm Sandi Ferretti, and I'm the program director for this Master of Science in Healthcare Leadership. I have a similar type of degree, a Master's of Health Services Administration, and I worked in a number of different healthcare sectors prior to joining this academic program. So really have a knowledge of both sides of the fence, if you will, in terms of the educational side of things from an MHA type degree, also to living and working in healthcare. So I would ask that you use the Q&A function in your menu bar circled here to ask any questions that you have during the session so that you can, you don't have to try and keep track of them on paper or anything like that. Just type them right in and we will get to them towards the end of the session so that everyone gets their questions answered. All right, and I'm gonna skip out of that because we're not ready for thank yous yet. All right. All right, so welcome to our panelists. I would like the first question that I'd like to do going round robin is for you to introduce yourself, tell us a brief little bit about your military service and what drew you to MHL as a result of that. So John, if we could start with you.
Yeah, certainly. Thank you, Sandi. Yeah, so my name is John Jordan. I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps. I served from 2002 to 2010. Grew up in a military family and actually did not intend on joining the military. But September 11th happened my senior year of high school. So I felt compelled to join and wanted to do what I thought was the best choice, and that was the Marine Corps, which put me on a great path. And I got to do the Iraq and Afghanistan thing many times. But all of that through my service, I found a great sense of purpose and wanting to help others. And that ultimately drew me into the healthcare industry, but on the medical device side. And so, I had gone to from a technical background in the military where I worked on electronics to then, coming to medical device, but needing to learn the business side. So I did my undergrad and had done a master's both in business administration, but I didn't have a lot of what I would say formal knowledge in the healthcare industry, which was a knowledge gap for me supporting the healthcare industry. So that got me looking, hey, what can I do that's healthcare focused? Came across Brown and found, fantastic, university with a program that was flexible, that worked in a time frame that worked really well for me. 1 year, kind of just accelerate and get it done. And it gave me exposure to a lot of things that I had never heard before, and a lot of backgrounds I had never, had the chance to interact with in my interactions with the healthcare system. So that was really the driver for me, was to educate myself more on the healthcare industry and to surround myself with people during the program, but even more so after the program, that I can lean on and continue to learn from.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm going to ask Mario to go next. Mario completed the program before it was a 1-year program, but I think your experience is relevant as well. So just would love to hear from you.
And I was definitely going to mention that I wasn't the accelerated part of the accelerated crew. But thank you, Andy. My name's Mario Padron. I practice psychiatry now. I'm fresh out of residency. Let me start with my military background. I'm a veteran of the Marine Corps. I was an infantry officer when I was in. Some of the best times of my life. I practice telehealth, and when I talk to my patients, I show them the wall of all my degrees. I tell them at the heart, there's an eagle, globe, and anchor. that defines everything. It's to my right here. Little thing I got off Etsy, which is amazing. But some of the best times of my life in the Marine Corps, and I have that to thank for the man I am today. Like I said, I was an infantry officer. I also did some civil affairs. And when I got out of the military, two things. I missed science because I was a physicist before I went to the military. And I also had my law degree. And I also had this like desire and felt this duty to continue to contribute to others. So that's why I went into healthcare. So I went to medical school and actually did my MHL while I was in medical school, my third and fourth year, because it was like a year and a half program, right, Sandy? It was about a year and a half.
Yes. Mhm.
And now it's a year. That's incredible. But that's what I did. So I went right into residency after I graduated in May of 2022. And then I'm just fresh out. So yeah, so what drew me to the MHL program is that I love the clinical aspect of medicine. I do, but I really want to I feel like there's more. There's more that I could do, particularly given that I have a legal background and a leadership background from the military experience. I want to do much more than that. So right now, I work, like I mentioned, I work in a telehealth clinic that I own and I started. And I probably wouldn't have been able to do that had I not had the education and the background that I have from the MHL program. It just pulled me in the right direction, knowing what things to ask for, what things to look out for. And frankly, I'm connected with amazing, amazing people. Of course, I'm going to say that my cohort was the best, cohort 8. We graduated with about 10. I don't know what the sizes are right now because the one after me was fairly large,
Yeah.
but
Yours was small.
mine was like 10 or 12 graduates,
We
and it was,
graduated 12, I think. Yeah.
and we were tight like glue. We still talk on a group chat on WhatsApp. The people that I have met there, they're starting their own businesses, their own like funds. They're starting all sorts of things, and it's just impressive and amazing. I'm so blessed to know everyone. But like I said, I'm just fresh out of residency, so I'm working on growing. But this degree has definitely taught me a lot, and is definitely affording me opportunities that I wouldn't have otherwise had I not done the program. And of course, the people that are still administrators like Sandy and whatnot are just have been excellent to me, and I could always reach out to them for everything. So thank you for allowing me to give that quick introduction, Sandy.
Great. All right. And Pat, let's hear from you.
My name is Pat Towery. I'm a national board certified health and wellness coach. I'm in private practice. And I think first off, I just want to say, Mario, John, happy belated birthday. I got to go to my first Marine Corps ball. It was done by the Student Veterans Association here at Ole Miss. And you guys know how to have fun. Very envious of your esprit de corps. I'm a veteran of the United States Army. I'm a soldier for life. I was an aviation officer. I flew the UH-60 Black Hawk helicopter, had deployments to Central America and Afghanistan. I had this very wide valence of leadership opportunities that normally aren't afforded to pilots. And I found a lot of purpose leading, not just inside of the cockpit, but also outside and in the hangar. And fitting myself to be of maximum service to the people about me. When I transitioned out of the military, I noted that I had a very positive experience with a therapist who would fly with me as a non-rated crew member. We would do therapy and counseling sessions together. And then he'd say, "All right, Pat, I'll see you down on the flight line." And he would jump into my aircraft, hook up to comms, and we would work as a crew to maneuver that aircraft. He would put his life in my hands. Talk about a confidence boost. The level of trust and rapport that he had with me because he was willing to meet me where I was, where I worked, where I spent most of my time, I think made a very positive impact in my life, and steered me towards this new novel profession that the VA has really adopted throughout its infrastructure. We're starting to see more health and wellness coaches enter into the healthcare ecosystem. and filling the gap between where physicians or providers meet patients uh, and continued lifestyle changes. Um, After my board certification, I became a national director of a company that provides wellness coaches and consulting to college fraternities. And while I was in the MHL program, I was in cohort 11. I think we had 25 or so people come through the first term, and then we had another 25 join us in the second term. That program gave me so much clarity and direction. It influenced a lot of alignment in my life, and it gave me the confidence to step out on my own and start my own private practice. So, one of the best things that this program offered to me was the confluence of different stakeholders within the healthcare ecosystem between administrators, providers, pharmacists, people who are on the business side. It gave me some exposure to how I could replicate like an enterprise starting off by myself and leading through organic relationships. So I have a lot to owe to this program.
Well, we appreciate you, Pat, and what you brought to the classroom as well. So you all did a wonderful job introducing yourselves and also speaking to MHL and how it's kind of helped you and what brought you to it. So that like I can cross off that first question on my, on my list. So I'm going to move to the next one, which is for you. As you think about your experience during the program, in the program, can you think of a memorable experience, learning moment where you just kind of went, aha, that was a special activity or something that really, resonated with you in some way in terms of the academic experience. So I'll start with Mario because he's hopefully he has, even if several years out, still has a memorable experience.
There was this team building exercise we did. I've done a lot in the military. So coming from the military might seem fairly elementary, but seeing how people, these PhDs, these MDs, these DOs, these PharmDs, so educated and with all this wealth of knowledge, this great, wonderful backgrounds, and just watching them learn the basics that we learn as people in the military as like either privates or lieutenants or sergeants or well, sergeants you would have already known all that. But just being part of that was amazing. It was Sandy, it was something with toys. Oh, I can't
Yes.
even. Okay, it was something like
Yes.
that. But
Yes.
just
Yes. It
watching
was with a toy.
well, it was like a bunch of things. We're supposed to build something, and it's a departure from what we really did in the MHL program. But we just did it, and it taught people a lot about themselves. A lot of things they just didn't know. And and I was one of the younger people. I was 35 when I was in the program. Yeah, about 35, 34, 35. So it was myself and John O'Brien. We were the youngest people. And just seeing all these gentlemen and ladies just with all these backgrounds just continue to develop and learn a lot about themselves. Things that to this day they say they apply in their own practice, in their own businesses, in their own fields. That was pretty cool. So that's the one thing that came to mind. There's so many more things I can mention. Shark Tank. I don't know if you still do that.
Oh,
But
yes.
we have this culminating project at the end, and we have to go through this kind of a Shark Tank deal. And that was a fun experience. It wasn't too sharky. I didn't get bitten too hard, but
So we try to have nice sharks, but
we have very nice and sharks that really focus on our development. So
yeah.
anyway, that's the one that came to mind. If more come
Mhm.
to mind, I'll mention them later, Sandy. But yeah,
Great.
that's
Those
one thing.
those are great.
Thank you.
Pat, how about you?
I forgot about the Shark Tank experience. As I'm kind of like looking back on it now, I had a realization earlier today. Maybe it's because I was anticipating being on this panel. Uh, that Shark Tank experience was my first, I guess, foray into like potentially doing some PE stuff. And uh, I now see the possibility for me to start building businesses or services or new models that I can sell, uh, that I can bring on partners to scale. Uh, that what I do does not necessarily have to just be a private practice. It can be something that I can build and replicate everywhere in a number of different communities. Um, my original answer was going to be the 47th time that Professor Larry Chait said alignment. He hammered home the idea of alignment and used so many examples of how organizations are able to achieve something together that they couldn't achieve on their own when they have that sort of alignment. Uh, and he used a number of examples of misalignment, and he challenged us to take these ideas back to our organizations. And one of my big light bulb moments for me was seeing that I was no longer aligned with the organization that I was a part of. And it was time for me to step out and go grow on my own. So that was, I think that was a very formative thing. I'm surprised that uh, more, there weren't more businesses or people like starting LLCs together in my cohort. Um, there's such a phenomenal entrepreneurial spirit amongst all of us. And I think if all 50 of us in MHL cohort 11 got together and started something, I think we could take over the world in a good, positive way.
Excellent. Excellent. All right, John.
Yeah, it's just a touch on what Pat said about alignment. My wife is currently in the MHL program and just kind of resumed Larry's course.
Yeah.
So alignment is definitely a word that's being used rather frequently in our household today. So that's pretty cool. But I think, Sandy, for me, one of the things, maybe not an aha moment, but a moment of curiosity for me that sparked and grew over the program was, and I don't remember the exact first time that it was used, but the introduction of the term psychological safety, which was which ended up, which I found was integrated into every course, across the program. And I understood the concept instantly, but I hadn't heard it explained that way, right, and introduced in that fashion. And so I think, kind of to what Mario was saying about, you have these people from all this different backgrounds and some of the exercises you're doing, and everyone kind of lets loose, right? There's no job title or, for military, there's no rank, right? And so everyone's just on the same playing field, and it doesn't matter, right? You built the courage in the classroom to be able to say whatever you thought, whether or not you disagreed maybe with what was being discussed, or you just wanted to add your feedback. And I think that's so hard for people today to say, what, I may have a different opinion. I'm gonna speak up. And so that really created some dialogues that, if we had not created and really emphasized the psychological safety thing, some people may have had those thoughts in their mind and just kind of sat back. But everyone, I think, was comfortable in participating. And so I think for me, that was really something that really stood out, and I think about a lot now. And I use that term more now, like in my professional life. That, again, it was not a foreign concept, but just explained in a different manner. And so it's made it easier for me now to take that and introduce and making sure we can have more effective conversations when everyone feels like they can contribute.
Exactly. You're leaving your stripes at the door.
Right.
I mean, one thing I find about everyone who comes and joins the MHL program is that you are all really super engaged. You're there because you want to be there. And so then when we can provide that psychological safety in the classroom, you can have those really rich conversations to really hear about different points of view. And so I think you really raised an excellent point. So terrific. All right, let's move on to some more, I would say, operational types of things in terms of many times students want to know, like, okay, this is a short program, it's an intense program, I'm working full time at the same time as I'm trying to do this. So how did you find your ability to kind of manage your personal life, your family life, work, school, all at the same time? So let's start with Pat this time. If it can come off mute there. There you go.
Trying to find my mouse. It
That's
like
okay.
veered off into one of the mountains in Colorado on my like screen up there. I am a fervent believer in the idea of work-life integration, that when we look at our dimensions of well-being, that very rarely will we always be in balance. And if we are in balance with everything, it's probably a fleeting moment. So taking on Professor Che was one of the people I interviewed with um, right off the bat, and he was very blunt about the expectations of this program. It's very demanding, and by adding on this level of commitment for classwork, to go to Providence, to do the in-person classes, to follow on with the live discussions throughout the semester, something has to give. So I found that the best way to integrate Brown into my life was to start using the weekends to do a lot of intensive work. Um, and I would use time after I got done with my consulting or site visits to go back, review some of the classwork or material that was introduced to us, and then use it maybe the next day. I actually used an article about psychological safety that was given to us as students as a workshop opportunity for 49 women, I think 2 weeks ago at a sorority. So I'm using principles from Brown. It You can still have a social life. You can still maintain incredible physical well-being. You can still work out. You can still make PRs. You can still have a very fruitful mental wellness as long as you strategically or tactically fit this program into your life. And if you're married or if you have a partner, maybe make it up to them once this program is done.
All right, and now John, you're flipping the script in terms of your wife is now on the other side of the fence there.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Michelle was a big part of why I was able to devote so much time to the program. So of course, yeah, now that I'm done and she's gotten started and the timing of that worked out fantastic for us. I find myself, I'm cooking more dinners than I was when I was in the program, to allow her time. But I think, to me, especially, for the veterans that are listening, right? You made a commitment to serve. And you dedicated yourself to that. And I think the program is the same way. But again, now in the accelerated format, okay, it's 1 year. Yes, I'm going to have to find time somewhere. I'm going to have to take time away from something. And you got to look at that, right? It doesn't have to be take time from I'm just taking family time or whatever, right? You can say, okay, I'm going to take a little bit of my morning. I'm going to take a little bit of my lunchtime. I'm going to take a little bit of my evening, but I've got to have some small sacrifices there. But again, as veterans, we're used to that, right? We have to make some sacrifices to do what needs to be, to accomplish the mission. And that's kind of the way, for me, I looked at it is, okay, I got to give up a little bit of time, but I'd rather sprint and get it done with. And again, that's why the program was so attractive to do it in a year. And I think it's discipline, right? And finding a routine. Now there were times where, I'm like, hey, I can really try to work as far ahead as the program will allow me, and try to get ahead, or I don't want to do anything this weekend because we want to make it, we want to do a trip or something, or over the summer, when the kids are off and things. So I'm gonna really work, in the evenings this week. And so, finding a way to adjust. But again, having that routine is really, really important, and just blocking the time. And hey, a couple days a week, maybe I don't make it, but I'm more likely to make it than not if it's on my calendar and actually blocking time. So yeah, use of the calendar was a big thing for me because it felt like, in a sense, a work meeting. I know I have to be there. I know I have to commit the time. And so same thing, if it's on the calendar, I know I have to show up.
Excellent, excellent. And Mario, you were juggling two programs at the same time, which is a challenge. You were in your clinical rotations, which is helpful, but but still, it's that's like work and school.
That's right. I started the MHL program. We started in January of
21, maybe.
no,
No?
yeah, 21. We started in January of 20. We were in the midst of COVID, right? Right in yeah. And I remember I started while I was doing my emergency medicine rotation. So of course everyone has different like job
Responsibilities.
requirements, job dynamics, but I just made good use of my time. When I did an OBGYN rotation, half the patients didn't want to see a male. I would read. I would read for the MHL program. Emergency medicine between patients, I'd get the reading. It's totally doable. I had a lot of fun doing it. I counted a lot on my peers. We worked together. Oh, at first we didn't really know each other, but as we moved on, we collaborated a lot on work. It really cut time down and fractions with everything we had to do. And there are a lot of team exercises. Everyone would be so good; they'd all contribute to the effort. Wouldn't have any issues with that. But and I remember, my graduation from medical school was actually the same day as my Brown, and I went to Brown. I was just very proud of that. And I wanted my parents to go to Brown too. That was really neat. But what I wanted to say about family life, you know what? I felt like because I wasn't married, I had no kids then, but I met so many of my peers, spouses, their children, everything. They actually integrate them because I don't know if you do, Sandy, do you still have these in-person week
Oh,
long
yes.
sessions?
Yep.
Okay. They would bring them, and it's almost like this was like a big family activity. It really was. I met so many of their families, and not just at graduation, but before that, and everyone was just so happy, so content with the program, with the dynamics that their spouse was going through, all the work they had to put in. They all recognized they had to put in a lot of work, but I didn't see any family member that was disappointed in any way. I'm proud to say that, really. But like I said, for me, it was a little different. I had no one other than my parents, and my parents weren't really that upset that I was going to Brown. So that's where I was. It was totally doable. And remember, for those who are clinicians here who are physicians, I was studying for boards at the same time. Even when I was in the MHL program, when I had 10 minutes, I would study for boards, and I would flip the script when I would be in med school and clinicals. I would study for the MHL. There was a lot of reading, a lot of things, but the reading, I feel like the reading and the material that they gave us, at least at Brown, um, it got to the point. It wasn't fluff. It's carefully selected and engineered and orchestrated to really develop you. I don't feel like I was reading a lot of fluff like I would read in other programs. Like, well, why couldn't you just tell me to read pages 2 through 8 and get it over with? But yeah, it was totally doable. And if anyone has any questions, they can reach out to me, see how I did it. So thank you.
Excellent, excellent. So my last question really then is kind of about beyond MHL. Like you've graduated, some of you, more recently than others, but how my question really relates to how you feel like this is contributing to or advancing your professional goals or your career. So John, we'll go back to you to start.
Yeah, I think again, I'm in the medical device side. And one of the big things, and we ended up talking as this happened towards the end of the program, we ended up talking about it on a lot of the office hours. But as everyone knows, you've seen the things about tariffs. And so my company is based in Europe. So I'm in part of our US headquarters in Charlotte, North Carolina. And so we've been impacted pretty heavily by the tariffs. And there was a lot of discussion in some of the later classes around, hey, how are we handling that and things like that. People would ask me questions. And so, one of the things when I think back, I mean, all the classes were helpful, but, strategy and trying, how to put a plan together, how to look at things longer range. And so with the tariffs and us, again, being a European company impacted by that, we say, all right, well, how do we respond to this, both in the short term and the long term? And so it's caused us to do a lot more, um, more frequent visits to our short, mid, and long range planning. And so now, that's brought to where now I'm leading the effort to bring some of that, basically onshoring some of that manufacturing, here in the United States, which is a major initiative for us. And I think, what I learned in the program and the structure that provided me has really helped. Um, and part of that too. Some of the different culture again that we had in the program, different backgrounds, and getting used to working with different people. The same thing like in the military, right? Very diverse. The class was very diverse in all different skill sets, educational backgrounds, and things like that. So the influence of kind of the diversity piece and learning how to work with that has helped me because when I started the program, I oversaw operations for a US business. Now I oversee operations for all of North and South America. So that's been meant for me now working with new cultures that I hadn't worked with before. So I have a newfound respect for that Brown kind of helped reinforce. So I think, those are kind of the big things, again, just graduated from the program in May, but I've already seen, very big benefit in my personal career and even bringing things home to my home life and things that I'm trying to educate my two teenagers on things that I've learned in the program, and then now having my wife who's obviously in the program too kind of help reinforce. So career and personal, extreme levels of development in a very short period of time.
Excellent. And that's amazing that your scope is broader and you're thinking more production, and like those are all new skills and new work that you're having the opportunity to do. So that's great.
Right. Yeah, it's been fantastic.
Yeah. All right, Pat, you ventured out on your own, which is amazing. So tell us about that.
To echo what Mario said, the curation of the literature from this course is just phenomenal. If you do decide to apply and become a student here, I highly recommend saving those articles and using them as reference points either to build workshops for your team or maybe set the tempo for meetings. It's I found that to be incredibly helpful for me as a veteran because you just come into I'm thinking about what Mario talked about with the Mr. Potato Head exercise, which is chaos. And we thrive. We thrive in chaos. You have so much experience in leadership as a veteran, even as junior enlisted soldiers, junior military officers. You still have uh, an incredible amount of professional development and leadership experience that most of our peers in the civilian world just don't get an opportunity to take hold of. That curation of topics and articles and literature in the classes, I think allowed me to start articulating that experience into something that was more palatable and translatable to clients and to stakeholders that don't come from the same background as me. Uh, the three panelists, we all have a very similar lexicon that we can fall back on with our military decision making process or our operations orders. I'm sure that the attendees uh, have those as well. And we can take some of the good things that helped us out so much and be successful in the military, and use it to help our clients or our customers or our team meet KPIs, work towards a mission, a vision, a purpose, and do it in a way that doesn't sound so foreign to them.
Mhm.
Comes back to Professor Larry Chait's concept of alignment.
Well, right, being able to find that alignment with your stakeholders, with your peers. Yeah, excellent. All right, so Mario, you're a few more years out, so tell us a little bit about how you think MHL has shaped your perspective on the work that you're doing now.
Of course, thank you, Sandy. So of course, it's important to remember that I was in medical school while I did this, and there was a clear pathway to residency after. So this will continue to pay off as I move forward. But in residency, I guess it was more than just the MHL, but I was chief resident that did, and people did look up to me when it came to administrative stuff because I had the MHL. The MHL didn't really teach me how to make call rosters, but they thought it was shiny and nice. I'm like, okay, you must know how to do this. I'm like, totally, sure. But no, I actually did some rotations in administrative work. They afforded me that in residency, which was kind of
Nice.
neat. They've never done that at all with any other person. It's very specific to your field.
Right.
I've been offered recently. I've been afforded a lot of job offers for like biotech tech startup companies. And one thing that's always brought up in the interview is that, okay, leadership. So they point to two things. They point to military experience and then the MHL. They always point to those things. They talk to me about the MHL program, and I feel like I've done this panel before when it comes to some people who are interested in a lot of venture capitalists and
Interesting.
yeah. And then finally, the connections that I've made in the MHL program, not just my cohort, but other cohort. I was talking to Sandy right before we got on this panel. There's a gentleman who he's asked me, hey, come work for me in a different state. It's a state job. It's actually a state epidemiologist position. I mean, and that's pretty big. And I wouldn't have had that opportunity. Well, let's see if I get that opportunity, but I wouldn't have had that opportunity had it not been for the connections that I have made. I know there's everyone I can lean on. And I know there are people who I haven't even met before that I can reach out on LinkedIn that are part of the MHL family. And some have already reached out to me, and I've seen what I can do for them. So, like I said, it was kind of atypical because I was in school. Residency is kind of still school, so it's still in the middle of school, but it's still paying off. And everything that I've learned, to echo what they've said before I had the opportunity to speak right now, it just continues to pay off. All the lessons that we've learned. So, yeah.
Excellent. Thanks. Thank you so much. And Aldo was able to join us, so I'm so appreciative of you joining today, Aldo. Aldo is also one of our MHL alums and also a veteran. So maybe what I'll have you do is just do our introductory question, and then we're going to move on to.
Oh, you froze, Sandy.
Oh no. Am I back?
You're back. You're
Okay.
back.
Phew. So I'll have you introduce yourself, tell us a little bit about your military background, and then what drew you to the MHL program.
Sure. Hi, everybody. Sorry for being late. I'm in clinic right now, so that's my reason
Jump
there.
in.
Let's see. I was in the Army for 14 years. I was a flight medic for many of those years, also a line medic. What drew me to the MHL? Boy, I wanted to have a more eclectic approach to managing leadership, that when you're in the military, you don't know you're doing it, but you are doing it. But now I wanted the theory behind it, and the MHL program was something that kind of called to me. I looked at other programs at University of North Carolina and all this other stuff, but for whatever reason, the Brown program kept calling me, and luckily I was accepted. And what it's done for me, hearing the other two panelists talk, was it has really kind of married the military leadership skills that you're doing every day with the theory behind it and how that creates confidence in your ability to kind of take a leadership role. Like Mario just said, he's now, in these positions where he's doing leadership. I myself am now involved in certain leadership things in my organization. And it's opened up a lot of doors. It's opened up a lot of opportunities, and also creating a network moving forward. It's just been one of the best things that's ever happened to me. So it really has, for me, what was really the nexus for me was the financial part. I had no idea what it takes to run a clinic and how much it costs. And we just go in there and pick up a suture tray or a chest tube tray, and we just pick it up for whatever reason. But there's a lot of processes involved in that to make that happen. And the MHL program kind of shed a lot of light on finance and how important that is. So for me, it was an awakening for me, basically.
That's great. All right. Thanks so much. So, and thank you to all of you for your contributions, because you say the things about MHL that I think are important and valuable. You say it so much better than I can, and people really want to hear from alumni of the program. So thank you for that. I'm going to ask Emma to join us, and she's going to help me navigate questions in the Q&A section. So as our participants, please put your questions in the Q&A, and we will see how many we can get to in the time we have left.
Perfect. So our first question that I'm seeing here for our alumni is, how do you see the CCP project playing out in your career now that you're finished?
I can answer that. So my CCP was to have a mobile healthcare van that not only attacks acute medical issues, but also attacks some social determinants of health, such as housing, mental health, drug addiction. But what's different from mine versus other resources that San Francisco has was that we were also going to do primary care. There's a lot of these vans running around kind of working in silos. And what I want to do with my CCP, I want to create a spider web of all of us getting connected so that we can kind of, create a really, really well connected and fail-proof system for our homeless or unhoused population. One of the things that I kind of put in my CCP was a lot of people who are unhoused won't go seek medical care until it's like really, really dire. And the reason being, they might have a great spot on a hill that if it rains, it doesn't get flooded, and like things that we don't think about, but they obviously think about. So my CCP was designed to go to them versus them coming to us. Since then, they EMS6, which is part of San Francisco's unhoused reaction team, is now doing that, and they're getting people connected to primary care versus just seeing a patient and then kind of just letting them go. And my CCP, when I first presented it prior to graduation, our prior director offered me a position in hopes of getting a similar program involved at one of the hospitals at Rhode Island. I forgot what system he works for, Sandy.
Yeah. Brown, of course.
Brown now, right? Brown Med. So it has helped a lot in the sense that I'm not directly involved in it now, but some of the things that I piloted have been picked up by EMS6, and it's being used throughout San Francisco.
Excellent. All right, John or Pat?
Yeah, I can speak to that. So, so my CCP was around essentially creating alternative payment models, or it's at least exploring alternative payment models for capital equipment, used in the hospital. So, for example, my company, we manufacture hospital beds. Hospital beds are not something that people get really excited about, right? So, when you have limited capital dollars within the hospital and you're trying to think, how do I deploy that? you want to go after the surgical robots and things like that that help draw patients in, but also, create revenue. And, hospital beds don't really do that. And so what you see with some of this capital equipment in the hospital is there's not a lot of funds set aside for it. And so it ages and, it doesn't get maintained appropriately. It just falls behind in the budgeting process. So we started, we explored some of that during my time in the program and ultimately came to introducing subscription models, which we had some very good success with. And since the program, we've continued to do that. And we've looked at other kind of alternative financing models. But really the gist of it was, you know, us as manufacturers of equipment, we have to do everything that we can to support the healthcare industry, right? So, we operate at much better margins than hospitals. Typical hospitals somewhere 1 to 3%, especially in COVID, where you're operating in the red. There's just not money for those things. So for us, we have to say, you know what, we have to find a way to help you, right? I mean, and obviously it helps us too. It keeps our business going, which was a big thing for me. But making it where the hospital doesn't have to make the choice, am I buying this or that? You know what? We can do both, but one of them might be funded a little bit differently, or we're going to pay in different terms. But the subscription model for us ended up being very successful. It's something we're trying to introduce to more and more hospitals. The largest nonprofit, IDN in the United States is our largest customer. They've adopted that model in a lot of their markets. But of course, we're trying to expand that further, which I think we'll do over the coming years.
Excellent. That's a great example. So I want to make sure we get time for some other questions, but I think you all can get a sense of how important the CCP is, both in integrating all of your coursework and that ability to kind of take it further in your own professional career. So Emma, I'm gonna see what else is in the Q&A here.
Yeah, so our next question is asking about scholarship opportunities. If you can touch on that a bit.
Sure. We do offer scholarship opportunities, and there are also specific programs that Brown has to be an active participant in, like the Yellow Ribbon, that allow you as veterans to get other types of scholarship benefits. So I don't know if any of you want to speak to using those benefits as part of covering your tuition.
Yeah, the one thing I think that's important to highlight that's not out there, right? I think or maybe not widely known, when you're in a program like this one where it's hybrid, right? But you're primarily doing your coursework online. As you know, if you've used your GI Bill, or even if you haven't, but you've educated yourself on it, there's two different payment rates for your housing allowance. One of those being for remote learning, and one of those for in-person learning. But because of Brown, because of the residency sessions that you have each semester, the program is considered from the GI Bill perspective, uh, and from a housing allowance perspective, they consider it an in-residence program, right? So instead of getting your housing allowance paid at the lower, online rate, you're paid as if you were in Providence. And so that significantly changes. I want to say it's almost triple or something like that, what the housing allowance is. So I think that's a major financial thing that is something worth considering when you're looking at the cost of the program.
Excellent. And I learned something today, so that's really helpful. Thank you. Anyone else want to comment on how you were able to leverage the military benefits?
Touching on what John talked about, I immediately thought about the Providence, Rhode Island BAH rate, which is really nice. I think it might be one of the only programs I know that's hybrid that uses the in-residency BAH rate. So even if you don't have all, I suppose, if I recall correctly, it was 11 months and a few days of my GI Bill that were used for this program, even if you don't have that whole 11 and a half months of GI Bill eligibility. The BAH rate should cover some of those expenses. So I can't do great napkin math right now, but that uh, I didn't know about it going in as a student. It was a very pleasant thing to find out about afterwards. Um, that can assuage a lot of concerns, I think, when you're dedicating a lot of time towards this program and it's taking away time you might use to accrue more revenue or time you might be building out new revenue streams or getting more patients in. Um, it it really helped me out quite a bit.
Great. All right. Let's touch on, go back to Emma, if there's any other final questions we want to ask our veteran alumni.
Yeah, so it looks like our last question is outside of leadership and management skills, what are the most valuable applied skills that you acquired from this program?
Applied skills.
I think one of the things that comes immediately to mind for me is research. Right? Depending on what your educational background is and what you've done before, you may not have been in a program that requires you to do research, right? And some of the tools and how you organize yourself and, you make sure you do your research and you keep it organized and you're able to call on it later, right? So like, for example, in the CCP, you start researching that and you have to turn in some of that research. Here's sources I found. And then, of course, over time, as it progresses, you're doing more research, and you got to find a way to organize that because, hey, I might have found a source or something, uh, you know, 6 months ago, but I need to call on that now. And so, to me, that was something that I didn't have a ton of experience on. My research experience was, hey, what can I find in Google, and things like that before. But Brown gives you access to a lot of different data libraries and things like that. Obviously, through the library, but the platform online, and then we had access to like PubMed. So anything you could think of, if you needed to find it, even if you did happen to Google it and you come up and then you go to click on it, it's like, oh, free access through Brown, right? And so you had a lot of access to things. And then just because you have such a great access, I feel like that encourages you to dive deeper because you say, I can find anything I want, not just excerpts, which, without the Brown program is what I was used to seeing before. But I think, yeah, just learning research, again, you're not at the doctoral level of research, but it's a really great introduction into how to do research.
Has it changed to what you do in your work if you're trying to persuade someone or think about how you are going to structure a project or a proposal?
Yeah, I think so. Again, the sources of data and things like that are very different. In a lot of cases, in some of the things that at least I do, we're kind of creating our own, less reliant upon because I'm out, at least for me, I'm operating in a pretty niche market, right? And there's not a lot out there. Um, and so, yeah, I think it is a really big piece. So even like on my CCP, when I'm trying to research about, information for hospitals and things like that, I ended up diving a lot deeper than what I would have if we took that initiative on without me going through the program.
Excellent. Mario or Pat, do you have anything to add in terms of skills that you took away from the program?
Yes, sales pitches, elevator pitches.
Elevator pitch. Yeah.
We did so many of them, and I mean,
Persuasive communication.
persuasive communication was amazing. I really learned a lot. We had to practice so much. We had to video them, record them, and then submit, then share with our peers. and then actually do it in class. And there were like 1 minute or 3 minute ones, and it's not as easy as it seems, as it sounds. But I really did take that out. And then when I got a master's from Harvard recently, and they I'm like, I know how to do this. Okay, I'm good at this now because of the MHL program. But yeah, no, when you first asked that, the first thing that came to mind are elevator pitches.
Elevators,
Now I
that's
do it on
great.
a daily basis. I try to convince people to take their meds. So
Right, exactly. It's useful, a useful tool no matter what you're doing.
absolutely, absolutely.
Excellent. Pat, you want to have the last word?
I have a background in motivational interviewing, but we were introduced to this idea of appreciative inquiry, which I've just added on to my toolkit. I can elicit more information. I can elicit people's goals and how they want to go achieve that. Uh, it, it it's given me more tools on maybe the clinical side, um, to be that facilitator for growth, and to gain a lot of trust and confidence with the people that I'm working with.
All right, excellent. Well, again, I want to say thank you to all of you for participating and joining. And looks like Aldo had to go take care of a patient, so that's we thank him for also for joining and for making the time to talk and provide information from a veteran perspective on your experience in MHL and how it matches or mixes with your experiences now in healthcare leadership. We really appreciate that. So if you have, for our participants, if you have questions, please feel free to reach out to us at professional.brown.edu. You'll find, if you do /healthcare, you'll get to get to our detailed program information. You can reach us by email on the website, and I think as a number of our veterans expressed, they're very willing to connect with you to talk about their experiences as well. So thanks again to everyone for listening to this session and to our panelists for providing your insights. We really appreciate it. Thanks so much, everyone. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.